The
You see,
wooden
the thing
frame
about
creaked
growing
beneath my
old is
weight
you
as
remember
I
the
settled
warmth
into the
more
rocking
than the
chair on my
cold.
front porch.
And I remember
At
that winter
71,
clearer
every
than
joint reminded
yesterday.
me of its
I
age, but I
remember the
wouldn't
day my
trade this
father gave
chair
me
or
this
this
watch. He
porch for
said,
anything.
son,
Not even
time
for
is the
the
one thing
luxury
you can't
retirement
get back.
communities that
Spend
had
it
been popping
wisely.
up all over
People
Oakwood,
ask me
Texas in
how I
recent
made it
years.
through those early
My name is
years.
Joseph Anderson.
Truth is, I
For 30
almost
years,
gave
I've been
up
a
more
professor of
times than I can
theology at Oakwood
count.
University before retiring 3 years ago. But my most important title wasn't Professor Anderson. It was Dad. I ran my fingers over the worn armrests of the rocking chair. Each groove and dent told a story. Homework sessions with frightened children who'd never known academic success, late-night conversations with teenagers struggling to believe anyone could love them, quiet moments of prayer when words failed us both. The late afternoon sun painted long shadows across my modest front yard. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet. Not much by Texas standards, but within these walls, 47 children had found safety, stability, and love when the world had given them none. Inside, hanging along the hallway, was what I called my wall of victory. 237 framed photographs spanning 25 years. High school diplomas, college graduations, law school ceremonies, medical school celebrations. 47 children who came to me broken had grown into adults who were changing the world. My phone buzzed on the small table beside me. I smiled at the name on the screen. Emily, how's my favorite daughter today? Her laugh warmed my heart instantly. You tell all your daughters that, Dad. And I mean it every time. Emily had been my first. She came to me at 7 years old, traumatized and silent, after her birth parents lost custody following years of abuse and neglect. For months, she barely spoke. For a year, she flinched at sudden movements. For 2 years, she woke screaming from nightmares. But Emily was a fighter. By 18, she had transformed into a confident young woman who graduated with honors and earned a full scholarship to college. Now 32, she worked as an elementary school counselor, using her own experiences to help other children heal. Dad Spencer and I were hoping to come for dinner tomorrow night. Would that work? Spencer Brooks, Emily's husband of 3 years, a successful project manager for his father's construction company, Brooks Construction. Handsome, ambitious, and in my private thoughts, deeply problematic in ways Emily couldn't or wouldn't see. Of course, sweetheart. I'd love to see you both. Great. Oh, and Spencer's parents asked if they could join us. They haven't seen your place in a while. Robert and Linda Brooks. Good people by all accounts. Robert had built his construction company from the ground up. Linda had taught elementary school for 35 years before arthritis forced her retirement. They'd raised 3 children and seemed proud of their son's accomplishments. The more the merrier. I'll make my pot roast. Perfect. We'll be there around 6. After hanging up, I sat quietly watching a pair of cardinals chase each other through the oak tree in my front yard. Spencer Brooks had been circling my property like those birds for months now, but with far less innocent intentions. It had started small. Comments at family dinners about how I must rattle around in this big old house all by myself. Questions about my retirement plans. Casual references to his parents' small apartment and their desire to settle down in a real home now that Robert was approaching retirement. I wasn't naive. I knew what Spencer was suggesting. This modest home, nearly paid off after 30 years of mortgage payments, represented a significant asset. With only $18,000 left on a property now worth close to $280,000, it was an appealing target. But Spencer didn't see what this house truly was. He didn't understand that these walls weren't just drywall and paint, they were sanctuary. These rooms weren't just square footage, they were healing ground for wounded children. I rose from my rocking chair, my knees protesting, and made my way inside. In the kitchen, I checked the refrigerator, making a mental list for tomorrow's dinner. The house was quiet except for soft footsteps from upstairs. Emma, everything okay up there? Emma Chen, 8 years old, appeared at the top of the stairs. Her small hands clutched the stuffed elephant I'd given her when she arrived 3 months ago. Emma's parents had died in a car accident, leaving her with no relatives able to take her. The state had placed her with me as an emergency foster placement while they searched for a permanent home. I finished my math homework, she said softly, her dark eyes serious. Can I help with dinner? Absolutely. Come on down. As Emma carefully descended the stairs, felt the familiar protective surge I'd experienced 47 times before. This child, like all the others, deserves safety, stability, and love. And I would move heaven and earth to ensure she received all three. What Spencer Brooks didn't understand, what he couldn't possibly comprehend, was that my retirement plan was standing right in front of me, clutching a stuffed elephant, and asking if she could help with dinner. The next evening, I put the finishing touches on the dining table as the doorbell rang. Emma had helped me set out the good plates, the ones we used for special occasions, and arrange fresh flowers from the garden as a centerpiece. "I'll get it," Emma called, racing to the door. I smiled, watching her excitement. 3 months ago, she'd been too terrified to answer the door. Progress came in small moments like these. Emily entered first, kneeling to hug Emma before embracing me. "Hi, Dem. Something smells amazing." Spencer followed, offering a firm handshake that felt more like a business transaction than a family greeting. At 34, he cut an impressive figure in his tailored shirt and designer watch, a stark contrast to my simple button-up in the 20-year-old timepiece Emily had given me for Father's Day when she was 12. "Joseph?" He nodded, surveying the living room with calculating eyes. "Place looks cozy as always." Robert and Linda Brooks entered next, both carrying covered dishes. Linda hugged me warmly. "Joseph, we brought apple pie and my potato salad. I hope that's all right." "More than all right," I smiled. "You're too kind." Robert shook my hand, his grip honest and firm. "Good to see you, Joseph. Thanks for having us." Dinner began pleasantly enough. We passed dishes, complimented the food, and shared news about work and community happenings. Emma sat beside me, quietly observing the adults with the careful attention foster children often develop, watching for mood shifts, analyzing tone, preparing for sudden changes. It was during dessert that Spencer made his move. "Joseph," he began, setting down his fork with deliberate precision. "Linda and I were talking the other day about your living situation." Emily tensed beside me. "Spencer, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time, honey." Spencer's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We're all family here." He reached into his jacket and produced a manila folder, placing it on the table between the apple pie and coffee cups. "I've been doing some research on senior living communities," he continued smoothly. "There are several excellent options within 15 minutes of here." Robert Brooks shifted uncomfortably. "Son, we never asked for this." "You don't have to ask, Dad," Spencer replied, his tone suggesting he was explaining something obvious to someone slow. "Family takes care of family." He opened the folder and spread several glossy brochures across the table. "Sunset Gardens, Golden Years Village, Peaceful Meadows Retirement Community." Each featured smiling elderly residents engaged in various activities, playing chess, gardening, eating in communal dining rooms. "The beauty of this arrangement," Spencer continued, "is that everyone benefits. Joseph gets the care and social interaction he needs. You two get a beautiful home with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and no mortgage payments beyond the remaining $18,000. The house stays in the family." He paused at that last phrase, allowing the emphasis to sink in. "The house stays in the family. Real family," his tone implied. Emily's fork clattered against her plate. "Spencer, we haven't discussed this." "We don't need to discuss it." "Sweetheart," Spencer replied without looking at her, "sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions." He turned to his parents. "I've already contacted Sunset Gardens. They have availability next month." Linda looked across the table at me with genuine concern. "Joseph, is this what you want? You've been in this house for 30 years. Before I could answer, Spencer interjected. "He's been thinking about it for months, Mom. Haven't you, Joseph?" His eyes challenged me to contradict him. "Face facts. You're not Emily's real father. When you're gone, this house would naturally go to her and then to us. We're just expediting the process while everyone can benefit." The silence that followed felt physical, like pressure against my eardrums. Emily's face had gone pale. Emma looked down at her plate, her small body tense with the familiar fear of disruption that all foster children know too well. "Spencer, how dare you?" Emily's voice trembled with anger. "How dare I what? Tell the truth." Spencer's facade was slipping now, revealing the arrogance beneath. "I'm not trying to be cruel, but let's be realistic. Joseph did a nice thing taking you in, but that doesn't make him family. Blood makes family. Biology makes family." Robert cleared his throat. "Son, that's not—" "Dad, please, I'm handling this." Spencer turned back to me with exaggerated patience. Joseph, you raised Emily, and that's commendable. But she's married now. She has a real family to consider. My parents are getting older. They need help. You need care. It's perfect timing. I set down my coffee cup and studied this man who'd been sitting at my table for 3 years, eating my food, celebrating holidays in my home, benefiting from my hospitality, while planning to take it all away. Spencer, I said quietly, when you say real family, what exactly do you mean? He blinked, surprised by the question. I mean people who are actually related, people with shared genetics, natural family bonds. I see. And the people in those photographs on my wall, the graduates, the wedding pictures, the Christmas cards from 23 states, they're not real either. They're nice memories, Joseph, Spencer said dismissively, but they're not family. They were temporary placements. You did your good deed, but now it's time to think practically. Emily stood abruptly. I can't listen to this. Sit down, honey. Let the adults finish talking. Spencer didn't even look at her, keeping his focus on me. Joseph, I've prepared the paperwork. The moving truck can be here Tuesday morning. Sunset Gardens is expecting you Wednesday. Clean, simple transition. The moving truck, I repeated slowly. Tuesday at 9:00 a.m. I've already booked it. Spencer smiled like he'd just solved everyone's problems. 3 days should be enough time to pack what you want to keep. The furniture can stay with the house. That's when I realized Spencer hadn't just planned this conversation. He'd orchestrated the entire takeover. He'd already made decisions about my life, my home, my future without once asking what I wanted. He'd assumed I was too old, too weak, too unimportant to resist. I thought of the 47 children whose homework I'd checked at the kitchen table, the countless nightmares I'd soothed, the weddings where I'd walked daughters down the aisle, the grandchildren who called me Grandpa Joe, despite no biological connection. I signed every report card for 12 years, I said quietly. Spencer shrugged. That doesn't make you family. Blood does. I looked at this man who had just dismissed 30 years of my life, 47 children I'd raised, and the love I'd poured into his wife. Then I smiled. I understand completely, Spencer. Let me make some phone calls. The slight satisfaction in Spencer's eyes told me everything I needed to know. He thought he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. After dinner, Spencer and his parents left with smug satisfaction. They'd accomplished their mission, or so they believed. The moving truck was scheduled, the assisted living facility was expecting me, and the house transfer seemed inevitable. Emily stayed behind, pacing in my living room like a caged animal. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he was planning this. Tears streamed down her face. I can't believe he said those things about you, about our family. It's not your fault, sweetheart. But it is. I married him. I brought him into our lives, and now he's trying to take away everything that matters to you. I hugged my daughter, my real daughter, adoption papers or not, and felt her shoulders shake with anger and grief. Don't worry about Spencer, I said. He doesn't understand what he's dealing with. What do you mean? I walked to my desk and opened the bottom drawer, the one I usually kept locked. Inside were business cards, letters, photographs, and documents that Spencer had never bothered to examine. Remember Dr. Rodriguez? Emily's eyes brightened slightly. Amanda. Of course, she lived with us for 4 years. I handed Emily a business card. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, Pediatric Surgery, Dallas Children's Medical Center. The card was expensive stock embossed lettering, the kind that announced serious professional status. She sent this last month with her Christmas card. She wanted me to have her direct number in case I ever needed anything. I pulled out another card. Judge Marcus Williams, Federal District Court, Washington, D.C. Emily's eyes widened. Marcus, little Marcus, who used to hide in closets. 35 years old now, youngest federal judge in Texas history. Another card joined the pile. Patricia Johnson, CEO, Innovate Tech Solutions. The business cards kept coming. Dr. Stephen Murphy, orthopedic surgeon, Seattle General Hospital. Professor Janet Richardson, Harvard Law School. Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos, Dallas Police Department. Captain Maria Gonzalez, United States Air Force. Dad, Emily whispered, what are all these Christmas cards, sweetheart? Thank you notes, graduation announcements, wedding invitations. 47 successful adults who still send me updates about their lives. I opened a folder filled with photographs, graduation ceremonies, wedding pictures, family portraits featuring children and grandchildren I'd never met, but who'd been told stories about their Grandpa Joe. Look at this one. I handed Emily a photo from last Christmas. 23 adults crowded into my living room, all wearing matching t-shirts that read Team Anderson. They had these made special for our family reunion. Emily stared at the photo with growing amazement. I remember some of these faces, but they all look so successful, professional. Success was always the goal. Every child who came through that door was told the same thing. You matter. You're capable of greatness. And education is your ticket to anywhere you want to go. My phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID, Dr. Rodriguez. Answer it, Emily urged. Amanda, sweetheart, how are you? Dad. Her voice carried the same excitement it had when she was 15 and got an A on a difficult exam. I got your message about needing to talk. What's going on? Just some family business I need to handle. Nothing urgent. Family business, who's giving you trouble? The protective edge in her voice was unmistakable. Amanda had been fiercely loyal since the day she arrived angry and defensive at age 13. My son-in-law thinks it's time for me to move to assisted living. The silence on the other end was ominous. He thinks what? He's arranged everything. Moving truck Tuesday, new apartment Wednesday. Dad, do you want to move? Not particularly. Another silence, then, give me his name and number. I need to have a conversation with this man. That's not necessary, Amanda. I can handle. Dad, her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to making life and death decisions in operating rooms. Give me his information and call Marcus and Patricia. This requires immediate attention. After I hung up, Emily looked at me with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Dad, what just happened? I think Spencer's about to get an education in what real family looks like. The following Wednesday was our church's monthly potluck dinner. First Baptist Church of Oakwood had been my spiritual home for 30 years, and these gatherings were always special to me. 40-plus members of our congregation would bring covered dishes and gather in the fellowship hall to share food and stories. Spencer knew how important these events were to me. That's exactly why he chose this moment for his most brutal attack. I was serving green bean casserole to Mrs. Peterson when Spencer walked in with his parents. They'd never attended a church function before, but tonight they looked like they were on a mission. Spencer wore his best suit and carried the same manila folder from Sunday dinner, but thicker now. His parents flanked him, their faces set with grim determination. Attention, everyone, Spencer announced, his voice cutting through the friendly chatter. I have an announcement to make. The fellowship hall fell quiet. 43 people turned to look at this man who'd interrupted their meal. Pastor Williams, who'd succeeded me after my retirement, stepped forward with concern. Spencer, is everything all right? Actually, Pastor, I'm glad you're here. This concerns the whole congregation. Spencer opened his folder with theatrical flourish. As many of you know, Joseph Anderson has been living alone for several years now. At 71, he's reached the point where he needs professional care. Murmurs rippled through the room. I saw confusion on familiar faces, people who'd known me for decades, who'd watched me raise child after child, who'd never seen any sign of declining health or mental capacity. Now I know this is difficult to discuss, Spencer continued, his voice dripping with false sympathy. But sometimes families have to make hard decisions. Joseph has been generous with his time and his home, but it's time for real family to step up. Mrs. Henderson, who taught Sunday school for 40 years, raised her hand tentatively. Spencer, dear Joseph, seems perfectly capable of managing his own affairs. Ma'am, with respect, you see him for a few hours on Sundays. I live with this reality every day. Spencer pulled out documents, medical brochures, assisted living pamphlets, legal papers I'd never seen before. My parents need housing. Joseph needs professional care. It's the perfect solution. Robert Brooks shifted uncomfortably. Son, maybe this isn't the right venue. Dad, please, the church community needs to understand the situation. Spencer's voice grew stronger, more confident. He was feeding off the audience's attention. For 3 years, I've been watching Joseph struggle with basic household maintenance, bill-paying, social isolation. He's been living in a 3-bedroom house by himself, holding on to space that could benefit a real family. That phrase again, real family. Deacon Miller, a man who'd known me since I first arrived in Oakwood, stood up slowly. Spencer, I'm confused. Joseph serves on 3 church committees. He teaches Bible study every Wednesday. He volunteers at the food bank. What exactly are you seeing that we're not? Spencer smiled like a teacher addressing a slow student. Respectfully, sir, you're seeing what Joseph wants you to see. The truth is, he's no longer Emily's legal guardian. His foster care days are over. He served his purpose, and now it's time for him to step aside gracefully. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Furthermore, Spencer continued, emboldened by the shocked silence, I think it's important for everyone to understand that Joseph's relationship with Emily was always temporary. Foster care is a service, not a permanent family bond. She has a real family now. Me, my parents, and someday our children. Joseph has been generous, but biological family has to come first. Emily, who'd been silent until now, finally found her voice. Spencer, stop, please. Honey, I know this is emotional for you, but someone has to speak the truth. Spencer turned back to the congregation. I've arranged professional care for Joseph at Sunset Gardens. My parents will take over his house, ensuring it stays within the actual family structure. The transition happens this Saturday. He said it like he was announcing a church fundraiser or a bake sale. Matter of fact, already decided. No discussion necessary. Pastor Williams looked stunned. Spencer, this seems like something that should be discussed privately. Pastor, I appreciate your concern, but sometimes private discussions don't work. Joseph has been resistant to change, which is understandable. Elderly people often struggle with transitions, but I have a responsibility to my wife and my parents to make practical decisions. That's when Mrs. Henderson stood up, all 5 feet of her bristling with indignation. Young man, I've known Joseph Anderson for 30 years. I've watched him raise 47 children that nobody else wanted. I've seen him at hospital bedsides, graduation ceremonies, and wedding altars. Don't you dare stand in our church and tell us he's not real family to those children. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Spencer's mask slipped slightly, revealing irritation underneath. Ma'am, I understand your emotional attachment to Joseph's service, but emotion doesn't change biology. Those children were temporary placements, service projects, good deeds. They've moved on with their lives. Emily is married now. It's time for realistic decisions about the future. Deacon Miller's face was turning red. Son, you're talking about a man who's dedicated his life to children in need. Show some respect. I am showing respect. Spencer shot back, his voice rising. I'm respecting reality. I'm respecting the fact that my parents raised 3 biological children and deserve consideration. I'm respecting the fact that blood relatives should have priority over temporary arrangements. The room erupted in angry whispers. I saw faces I'd known for decades reflecting shock, confusion, and growing anger. Spencer raised his voice above the noise. I know this is uncomfortable, but someone has to say it. Joseph played a nice role in Emily's childhood, but playtime is over. Adult responsibilities require adult decisions. The moving truck comes Saturday morning. Saturday morning. He'd moved up the timeline. Pastor Williams tried to restore order. Spencer, I think we need to table this discussion. There's nothing to discuss, Pastor. The arrangements are made. The paperwork is signed. Joseph understands that this is best for everyone. All eyes turned to me. 43 people who'd known me for 3 decades, waiting to see how I'd respond to this public humiliation. Would I fight back? Would I defend myself? Would I crumble under the weight of Spencer's accusations and assumptions? I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of every year, every child I'd raised, every battle I'd fought to give broken kids a chance at life. Spencer's right about one thing, I said quietly. It's time for realistic decisions. Spencer smiled triumphantly. He thought I was surrendering. I need to make some phone calls, I continued, and I think this congregation is about to see what real family actually looks like. The smile faded from Spencer's face. Because you're right, Spencer. Playtime is over. Thursday morning, my phone started ringing at 6:30 a.m. Dad, I just got off a conference call with Marcus and Patricia. Amanda's voice carried the crisp efficiency of someone who'd spent years coordinating medical emergencies. We're mobilizing the family. Amanda, you don't need to. Dad, stop. This isn't negotiable. Nobody, and I mean, nobody disrespects you like that and walks away clean. Over the next hour, the calls kept coming. Marcus from Washington, his federal judge authority evident even over the phone. Patricia from Silicon Valley already coordinating logistics with CEO precision. Dr. Stephen Murphy from Seattle arranging to fly in Friday night. By noon, my quiet house had become mission control for an operation I hadn't authorized but couldn't stop. Dad, we need a full list, Amanda said during her third call of the day. Everyone who's available to travel needs to know the situation. Honey, this is between Spencer and me. You all have your own lives. Our own lives. Patricia's voice cut in as she joined the call from California. Dad, you gave us our lives. Every success we've achieved started in that house with you believing in us when nobody else would. Marcus joined the call from his D.C. office. Patricia's right. Amanda, what's the timeline? Spencer announced Saturday morning for the move. I'm thinking we arrive Friday evening. Full family present Saturday morning. Agreed. I can get 17 people from the East Coast. Patricia, what about your numbers? 12 from California and the Northwest. Stephen's coordinating another 8 from the Midwest. I listened to my children, my real children, adoption certificates, or not, coordinate a response with military precision. These weren't the broken kids who'd come to me years ago. These were adults with power resources and unshakable loyalty. Friday afternoon, the first cars started arriving. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez pulled up in a silver Mercedes sedan at 3 p.m., still wearing scrubs from her morning surgery. She hugged me like she was 15 again, all professional composure melting into pure daughter love. Where is he, Dad? The Spencer character. At work, I assume. Amanda, you didn't have to come all the way from Dallas. Dallas is 2 hours. I've flown longer distances for lesser emergencies. She surveyed my house with the same analytical eyes she used in operating rooms. This place looks exactly the same. God, the memories. Judge Marcus Williams arrived 20 minutes later in a black town car with government plates. At 35, he carried himself with quiet authority that would have been unimaginable in the terrified 9-year-old who'd hidden in my closets for a month. Dad, his hug was fierce protective. I've reviewed Texas property law on the drive. What Spencer's attempting has zero legal standing. You want me to shut this down with paperwork. Let's see what tomorrow brings first. By 6:00 p.m., my driveway looked like a luxury car dealership. Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, Tesla vehicles worth more than most people's houses. Neighbors were starting to stare. Dr. Stephen Murphy from Seattle had flown in on a private jet, arriving with his wife Jennifer and their twin daughters. Dad, the girls wanted to meet their grandfather. He explained, lifting 2 8-year-olds who called me Grandpa Joe despite never having met me before. Professor Janet Richardson from Harvard had arrived with her husband and teenage son. Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos drove down from Dallas in his personal truck, still radiating the quiet intensity that had made him one of the department's most respected investigators. Captain Maria Gonzalez came in full-dress uniform, having taken emergency leave from her Air Force base. CEO Patricia Johnson stepped out of a chauffeur-driven SUV, looking like she'd walked off the cover of Fortune magazine. By 8:00 p.m., 23 adults and 12 children filled my modest house. The same living room Spencer wanted for his parents' recliners now buzzed with conversation between surgeons, lawyers, professors, business executives, and military officers. But they weren't showcasing their success. They were sharing memories. Remember when Dad taught us to change oil in the driveway? Carlos laughed, pointing to the same concrete where his police truck now sat. I was 16 and convinced I'd never need to know that stuff. He made us all learn basic car maintenance. Amanda added, said independence started with not depending on others for simple repairs. Marcus nodded. Same with budgeting. Every Friday night, financial literacy lessons at the kitchen table. You can't build wealth if you don't understand money, he'd say. Patricia pulled out her phone and showed photos of her corporate headquarters. Dad, I named the main conference room after you the Joseph Anderson Innovation Center. Your philosophy about believing in impossible things hangs on the wall in bronze letters. These weren't just successful adults reminiscing about their childhood. These were grateful children, honoring the man who'd saved their lives, shaped their character, and given them the tools to become extraordinary. Emily moved through the crowd in amazement. She'd known some of these siblings growing up, but seeing them as accomplished adults was overwhelming. Patricia, I can't believe you run a company worth $40 million. Patricia smiled. Dad always said we were capable of greatness. He just made us believe it ourselves. Dr. Murphy examined the family photos on my walls, the same photos Spencer had dismissed as meaningless memories. Dad, you should see what happened at the hospital when I told them why I was taking emergency leave. 3 other doctors wanted to come support you. You have grandchildren all over the country who consider this house sacred ground. As the evening progressed, the conversation turned strategic. So what's the plan for tomorrow? Amanda asked. Judge Williams leaned forward with the focus of someone accustomed to complex legal battles. Simple. Spencer expects to find a weak-old man ready to surrender his house. Instead, he'll find 47 successful adults who consider that man their father and this house their family home. What time did he say the moving truck would arrive? Patricia asked. 9:00 a.m. Captain Gonzalez checked her watch with military precision. Perfect. We'll be in position by 8:30. Full family presence, professional attire, peaceful but unmistakable message. Carlos nodded approvingly. I like it. No threats, no drama, just the truth standing in his driveway. The truth being, Emily asked. That Dad didn't raise 47 children, Marcus said quietly. He raised 47 adults who protect their family. Amanda stood up, surveying the room full of her siblings. Spencer wanted to know what real family looks like. Tomorrow morning he gets his education. By 10 p.m., most of my children had checked into hotels around town, but several insisted on staying in the house overnight. Amanda took her old room. Marcus slept on the living room couch he'd claimed as his favorite spot 25 years ago. Patricia set up a laptop in the kitchen to handle West Coast business calls. It felt like Christmas morning, except instead of opening presents, we were preparing to defend our home. As I lay in bed that night listening to my children's voices drifting through the house, I realized Spencer had made a fundamental miscalculation. He'd seen a lonely old man in a house too big for one person. What he'd failed to see was the heart of a family that stretched across 23 states and included doctors, judges, CEOs, professors, military officers, and law enforcement professionals who'd spent decades proving that love matters more than blood. Emma peeked into my bedroom around midnight, her small face serious in the dim light. Are we going to lose our home, Grandpa Joe? The title made my heart swell. She'd never called me that before. No, sweetheart, we're not losing anything. But the man said you have to move to a different place. I patted the edge of the bed and she climbed up, elephant clutched to her chest. Sometimes people think they can take things that don't belong to them. But tomorrow they're going to learn an important lesson about what family really means. She nodded solemnly. Family isn't just blood, it's love. That's exactly right. Who taught you that? You did, when I first came here. I hugged her close. Smart girl. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow will be a big day. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of clear Texas sky that seemed to stretch into forever. I woke at 5:30 to the smell of coffee and bacon. Amanda was already in the kitchen cooking breakfast like she had as a teenager. Big day, Dad. You ready for this? She handed me a mug of coffee fixed exactly as I liked it, 2 sugars, splash of cream. As ready as I'll ever be, I said, accepting the mug gratefully. By 7, the house buzzed with activity. Emily had arrived early, looking both nervous and determined. Emma watched wide-eyed as more siblings arrived from their hotels, each greeting her with warmth that slowly coaxed shy smiles from her face. Patricia paced the kitchen phone pressed to her ear. I need the drone at 8:15 sharp. Full aerial coverage. Yes, the YouTube channel is ready. We'll do the live stream directly from Dad's lawn. I raised an eyebrow. Drone live stream, she grinned. Spencer wanted public humiliation. Let's see how he likes being on the receiving end. Don't worry, Dad. Just a little insurance policy. By 8, the transformation was complete. 47 luxury vehicles lined both sides of Oakwood Street. Mercedes sedans, BMW SUVs, Tesla Model S cars, Lexus hybrids, a fleet worth more than $3 million, creating a quarter of success leading to my front door. But the cars were just the beginning. 47 adults in professional attire stood in perfect formation across my front lawn. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, in her white coat with a stethoscope draped around her neck. Judge Marcus Williams in a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. CEO Patricia Johnson in executive business attire that screamed Fortune 500 boardroom. Military precision guided their positioning. Captain Gonzalez had organized them by profession, medical professionals on the left, legal experts in the center, business executives on the right, with educators and public servants filling the gaps. Each person held a small sign with their name and title. Dr. Stephen Murphy, Chief of Orthopedic Surgery; Professor Janet Richardson, Harvard Law School; Detective Lieutenant Carlos Santos, Dallas PD; Major General Patricia Davis, U.S. Army retired; CEO Michael Thompson, Thompson Industries. 47 signs, 47 success stories, 47 lives that had started in the house behind them. "Dad, your position is right here," Amanda said, leading me to a spot in the center of the formation. "When Spencer arrives, we want him to see you surrounded by your family." Emily stood beside me, her hand gripping mine tightly. "I can't believe this is happening." "Believe it," Marcus said, adjusting his tie. "Spencer's about to learn what happens when you threaten our father." At 8:45, neighbors began emerging from their houses. Mrs. Peterson from across the street stood on her porch in amazement. The Williams family next door gathered at their front window. Word was spreading through the neighborhood. Something extraordinary was happening at Joseph Anderson's house. A small drone hummed overhead, its camera capturing the scene unfolding below. Patricia gave a thumbs up to a young woman operating the controls from the driveway. At 8:57, Spencer's pickup truck turned onto Oakwood Street. I watched from my position as his confident expression dissolved into confusion, then shock, then something approaching panic. He had to park 3 blocks away. The street was completely filled with luxury vehicles. Spencer walked slowly toward my house, his head swiveling left and right, taking in the impossible scene. His parents followed behind him. Robert Brooks clutching the lease papers for Sunset Gardens. Linda Brooks stared at the professional crowd with growing amazement. The moving truck rounded the corner at exactly 9 a.m., then stopped dead. The driver couldn't get within 200 yards of my house. Spencer approached the edge of my property line and stopped. 47 pairs of eyes watched him with the focused attention of people accustomed to high-stakes situations. De Rodriguez stepped forward, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who delivered life-changing news to thousands of families. "You must be Spencer Brooks." Spencer's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. What is this?" "I'm Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, Chief of Pediatric Surgery at Dallas Children's Medical Center." She gestured toward the crowd behind her. "These are my brothers and sisters." Judge Williams stepped up beside her. Marcus Williams, Federal District Court, Washington, D.C. CEO Johnson joined them. Patricia Johnson, Innovate Tech Solutions. One by one, 47 successful adults introduced themselves. Each name, each title, each achievement hitting Spencer like physical blows. Dr. Michael Chen, Cardiothoracic Surgery, Mayo Clinic. Professor Maria Davis, MIT Engineering Department. Colonel James Rodriguez, U.S. Air Force. CEO Jennifer Murphy, Murphy Construction, $200 million in annual revenue. Spencer's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and growing horror as the truth became undeniable. "We understand," Amanda continued, "that you have some questions about our father's living situation." "Your father," Spencer's voice cracked. "Joseph Anderson, the man who raised us, the man who saved our lives, the man you think should be moved to assisted living so your parents can have his house." The crowd shifted slightly, a subtle movement that somehow made them appear even more formidable. Marcus Williams opened a leather portfolio. "I've reviewed your proposal, Mr. Brooks. Legally speaking, it's fascinating. You want to remove a competent adult from his home based on what exactly? He's old. He lives alone. My parents need—" "Your parents need." Patricia Johnson's CEO voice could have frozen water. "Let me tell you what our father needs. He needs respect for the 30 years he spent raising society's forgotten children. He needs recognition for the 47 lives he saved. He needs acknowledgement that love and sacrifice matter more than biology." Spencer looked desperately toward the moving truck still blocked 3 blocks away. "You don't understand. Emily is my wife. This is a family matter." "You're absolutely right," Amanda said. "This is a family matter." She gestured toward the crowd. 47 children, 12 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. All of us consider Joseph Anderson our father and this house our family home. "But you're not really, Not really what?" Colonel Rodriguez stepped forward, his military bearing unmistakable. "Not really family. I've been calling this man Dad for 22 years. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding. My children call him Grandpa. What part of that isn't real? Spencer's parents had gone pale. Linda Brooks whispered to her husband. Robert, what have we done? DeMurphy addressed Spencer's parents directly. Mr. and Mrs. Brooks, I don't think you understand what your son was asking Joseph to give up. This house isn't just a building. It's the heart of a family that spans the country. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every celebration happens here. This is where broken children learn they were worthy of love. We didn't know, Robert Brooks stammered. Tyler Spencer told us Joseph was alone, that he needed care. Does he look like he needs care? Professor Richardson gestured toward me as I stepped forward to join my children. They parted to make room for me in the center of their protective formation. Spencer, I said quietly, I believe you wanted to discuss my housing situation. Spencer looked around at the 47 successful adults surrounding him, at the luxury cars lining the street, at the neighbors watching from their porches at the moving truck, stranded blocks away. This is exactly what it is, Amanda said firmly. This is what happens when you threaten our father. This is what real family looks like. Spencer's mouth moved soundlessly. The moving truck driver was walking toward us, clipboard in hand, looking thoroughly confused. Sir, the driver called to Spencer. We can't get to the house. Should we reschedule? Spencer looked at the driver, then at the crowd, then at me. The weight of his miscalculation was crushing him. Cancel it, he whispered. What was that? Judge Williams cupped his ear theatrically. Cancel the truck, Spencer's voice broke. Cancel everything. The transformation was complete. The confident man who'd demanded my house days ago had been reduced to a stammering shell by the simple presence of my family. My real family, the one that mattered. Robert Brooks stepped forward, his face ashen. Joseph, I want to apologize. We had no idea what Spencer was really asking of you. He told us you were struggling to maintain the house, that you needed assistance. We would never have agreed to this if we'd known the truth. Linda Brooks nodded tearfully. We've been so worried about where we'd live after Robert's retirement, but not like this. Never like this. Emily moved to stand beside me. Spencer, I'll be staying with my father tonight. We need to have a serious conversation about our future. Emily, please. Spencer reached for her arm. Amanda stepped between them. I wouldn't if I were you. Spencer's hand dropped. He looked around once more, then turned and walked away. Shoulders slumped in defeat. The crowd erupted in cheers. Neighbors applauded from their lawns. The drone captured it all from above. Emma pushed through the crowd and threw her arms around my waist. We won, Grandpa Joe. We won. I lifted her up, heart full. Yes, sweetheart, we did. Patricia tapped her phone screen with satisfaction. And that's a wrap. Live stream ended with over 15,000 viewers. Not bad for an impromptu production. 15,000? I blinked. Wait till you see the numbers by tomorrow. Spencer wanted public humiliation. He got it, just not the way he planned. The aftermath of Spencer's public humiliation spread through Oakwood like wildfire. By noon, the story had exploded on social media. Someone had filmed the entire confrontation from their porch, and Patricia's live stream had already been shared thousands of times. Foster Dad's 47 successful children defend family home hit 50,000 views in the first day. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. This is what real family looks like. Foster parents are heroes. That son-in-law got exactly what he deserved. But the consequences went far beyond internet fame. Monday morning, Spencer arrived at Brooks Construction, where he worked as a project manager, to find his father waiting in the office. I'm sorry, son, Robert Brooks told him, his voice heavy with disappointment. After seeing what you tried to do to that good man, I can't have you representing our family business. The church renovation contract was our biggest project this year. Now they won't even return my calls. First Baptist Church of Oakwood had indeed canceled their $250,000 renovation contract with Brooks Construction. Pastor Williams made it clear that anyone who would publicly humiliate a respected congregation member was not welcome on church property. The financial consequences were just the beginning. Spencer's marriage hit the rocks immediately. Emily stayed at my house, taking Emma with her. The 8-year-old foster placement had watched the entire confrontation from the upstairs window, and Emily wasn't about to let her feel abandoned again. I can't be married to someone who would treat you like that, Emily told me through tears as we sat on the porch that evening. Spencer showed me who he really is, and I don't like what I see. Marriage counseling lasted exactly 2 sessions. Spencer spent both meetings trying to justify his actions, insisting he'd been practical and realistic about family priorities. The therapist noted his complete inability to acknowledge wrongdoing or show genuine remorse. Some wounds can't be healed, Emily said quietly after the second session. Some betrayals cut too deep. The divorce papers were filed within 6 weeks. Perhaps the most devastating consequence was social. Spencer had lived in Oakwood his entire life, but after the confrontation, he became a pariah. The video had been viewed by everyone in town. His attempt to displace a beloved pastor and take his house made him infamous. The barbershop where he'd gotten haircuts for 20 years suddenly had no available appointments. The diner where he'd eaten lunch every Friday told him they were fully booked. Even the gas station attendant, who'd been friendly for a decade, treated him with cold politeness. Linda Brooks was mortified. She'd been active in the church auxiliary for 15 years, but after the potluck incident, she couldn't face her friends. The embarrassment of her son's public cruelty was too overwhelming. I raised him better than this, she told me during a tearful phone call. Robert and I are moving to Florida to be near my sister. We can't stay here after what Spencer did. The ripple effects reached Spencer's extended family too. His brother in Houston cut off contact completely. His cousins in Dallas stopped inviting him to family gatherings. The annual Brooks family reunion, 40 years of tradition, was canceled because nobody wanted Spencer there, but nobody wanted to officially exclude him either. 3 months later, Spencer left Oakwood entirely. He moved to Austin where nobody knew his story and tried to rebuild his life, but the video followed him everywhere. Potential employers Googled his name and found the story. Dating apps led to awkward conversations when women recognized him. Meanwhile, the positive effects for my real family were extraordinary. The viral video led to donations for our local foster care program exceeding 100,000. 3 other families in Oakwood applied for foster care licenses inspired by our story. Emma Chen, the 8-year-old who'd witnessed everything, started officially calling me Grandpa Joe. Her permanent adoption by Emily was finalized 4 months later, making her officially child number 48. And every Sunday at church, when Pastor Williams asked for testimonies of God's faithfulness, somebody would mention the morning when 47 adults stood on my lawn to defend their father. Spencer had wanted to prove that blood makes family. Instead, he'd proven the opposite. Love makes family. Choice makes family. Sacrifice makes family. Blood is just biology. Family is everything else. The most surprising outcome came 6 months later. My family, my enormous, unconventional, beautiful family, had gathered for our annual summer reunion. The house overflowed with laughter, stories, and the chaos of children playing. We'd set up tables in the backyard to accommodate everyone. 47 adult children, their spouses, and 22 grandchildren created the kind of joyful noise that made neighbors smile rather than complain. Emily was helping Emma set the table when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then froze. "It's Spencer," she said, her voice tight. The conversations around her quieted. "What does he want?" Amanda asked, the protective edge still in her voice after all these months. Emily shook her head. "I don't know. He hasn't called in months." She stepped away from the crowd to take the call. We tried to resume our conversations, but everyone was watching Emily's face as she spoke quietly into the phone. After a few minutes, she returned looking troubled. "He wants to see me, to talk." "Absolutely not," Marcus said immediately. "He says he's changed, that he's been in therapy, that he needs to apologize properly." "We've heard that before," Patricia scoffed. Emily looked at me. "What do you think, Dad?" I considered the question carefully. "I think forgiveness is always possible, but trust must be earned. If you want to hear what he has to say, I support that. But not alone and not without conditions. He's asking to come here, to apologize to you in person." A hush fell over the gathering. The idea of Spencer Brooks returning to this house after everything that had happened was almost unthinkable. And yet, "Bring him," I said finally. "If he truly wants to apologize, I'll hear him out." 2 days later, Spencer's truck pulled into my driveway. He climbed out slowly, his confidence replaced by something that looked like humility. He'd lost weight, gained gray hair, and carried himself like a man who'd learned hard lessons. Emily met him at the door. Amanda Marcus and Patricia waited in the living room, a smaller but still formidable version of the wall he'd faced 6 months earlier. Spencer stepped inside, cautiously, eyes widening slightly at the sight of my children. "I didn't know you'd all be here. Did you really think we'd leave Dad alone with you?" Amanda asked coolly. "No, I suppose not." Spencer looked down. "That's fair." I entered from the kitchen, drying my hands on a dish towel. Emma peeked around my legs, watching Spencer with wary eyes. "Joseph," Spencer nodded, then corrected himself. "Mr. Anderson, thank you for seeing me." "What's on your mind, Spencer?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "I owe you an apology, a real one." His voice shook slightly. "I was wrong about everything about family, about you, about what matters. I let greed and pride convince me that I was entitled to something that wasn't mine." He looked around the room, taking in the family photos, the graduation pictures, the evidence of lives shaped within these walls. When I lost everything, my job, my marriage, my standing in the community, I was angry. I blamed everyone but myself. It took months of therapy and some brutally honest conversations to realize what I'd done, how deeply I'd hurt people who never deserved it. Spencer turned to Emily. "I'm sorry for how I treated your father, for what I said about your relationship. You were right to leave me. I wouldn't have stayed with me either." To my surprise, there were tears in his eyes. "Mr. Anderson, I've spent 6 months learning what family really means. It's not blood. It's not biology. It's showing up. It's sacrifice. It's putting others before yourself. All the things you've done for 47 children who weren't yours by society's definition, but were completely yours in every way that matters." Emma stepped forward unexpectedly. "You made Grandpa Joe sad." Spencer knelt down to her level. "Yes, I did. And that was very wrong of me. I'm trying to apologize and make things better, even though I know I can't fix everything I broke." The little girl studied him with the solemn wisdom children sometimes possess. "Grandpa Joe says everybody deserves a second chance if they're really sorry." Spencer looked up at me, hope flickering across his face for the first time. Could there ever be a chance for me to earn forgiveness from Emily, from you?" I looked at this broken man and saw what I'd always seen in damaged children who came to my door, someone capable of redemption. Family isn't who shares your blood, Spencer. It's who chooses to stand by you even when you've made mistakes. Real forgiveness requires real change. Are you ready for that kind of work? He nodded, tears in his eyes. "Yes, whatever it takes." "Then we'll see what's possible." Emily touched my arm. "Dad, are you sure? I've spent 30 years believing people can change. I'm not about to stop now." The road to redemption wasn't easy for Spencer. Trust once broken requires tremendous effort to rebuild. But over the next months, he proved his sincerity through consistent actions rather than just words. He found work at a construction company in a neighboring town, living modestly in a small apartment. He volunteered at the local homeless shelter every weekend. He attended therapy religiously, working through the issues that had led him to value material possessions and status over people and relationships. Most importantly, Spencer began to understand what real family meant. When Robert Brooks suffered a heart attack in Florida, Spencer drove 18 hours straight to be at his father's bedside. When his brother's son needed help with college applications, Spencer spent weekends mentoring him. He showed up. He sacrificed. He put others first. 6 months after his apology, I invited Spencer to Sunday dinner. Amanda Marcus and Patricia were skeptical, but they trusted my judgment. "He's different," I told them. "I've seen it before when someone truly changes from the inside out. It's rare, but it happens." The dinner was awkward at first, but as the evening progressed, even my most protective children began to see what I had observed. Spencer wasn't the same man who had tried to take my house. The arrogance had been replaced by humility. The entitlement had given way to gratitude. When Emma asked him to help with her science project after dinner, several of us exchanged surprised glances. Children often sense genuine change before adults do. As they worked together at the kitchen table, Spencer looked up and caught my eye. The gratitude in his expression was unmistakable. He knew he'd been given something precious, the chance to redefine what family meant to him. I stepped onto the porch for a moment of quiet reflection. The street was peaceful in the twilight, so different from that Saturday morning when 47 luxury cars had lined the curbs and 47 successful adults had stood in formation on my lawn. Emily joined me, leaning against the porch railing. You were right about Spencer. He has changed. People can surprise you if you give them the chance. Do you think we'll ever get back together? She asked quietly. That's not for me to say, sweetheart. Some bridges once burned stay ashes. Others can be rebuilt stronger than before. Either way, you'll always have a family that loves you. She smiled, the expression so similar to the one I'd first seen on her 7-year-old face when she realized she was safe. I know, Dad. You made sure of that. Inside, Emma's laughter rang out, followed by Spencer's deeper chuckle. The sound of healing, of second chances, of family expanding in unexpected ways. Spencer Brooks had walked into my house and told me his parents were moving in tomorrow. Instead, he'd received an education in what family truly means. It wasn't the lesson he'd expected, but perhaps it was the one he needed most. As for me, I had 48 reasons to believe that love creates family far stronger than blood ever could. And now perhaps we had a 49th person learning that same truth one Sunday dinner at a time. 1 month after the confrontation on my lawn, I sat at my kitchen table reviewing paperwork for Emma's permanent adoption. The process had accelerated dramatically since the video went viral. What normally took years was happening in months thanks to community support and several well-placed phone calls from Judge Marcus Williams. Emily sat across from me, highlighting sections of the thick document stack. At 32, my daughter had never looked more determined. The trauma of her marriage's collapse had awakened something in her, a fierce protectiveness that reminded me of myself when I'd first taken her in 25 years ago. Dad, have you seen the latest donation numbers? She turned her laptop toward me, showing the fundraising page Patricia had set up for our local foster care program. The total had surpassed 150,000. Amazing, I murmured, adjusting my reading glasses. From one video. Not just any video. Emily scrolled through the comments section. People are calling it the family stand. That's what they've named it on social media. The viral video had taken on a life of its own. Patricia's marketing expertise had turned what could have been a local story into a national phenomenon. Major news networks had picked it up. Talk shows were discussing it. Celebrities were sharing it. What happened on my front lawn had struck a chord that resonated far beyond Oakwood, Texas. Listen to this comment, Emily read. Watching those successful people stand up for their foster father made me call the local agency. My wife and I start foster parent training next week. She scrolled further. As a former foster child, I sobbed watching this. This is the family I wish I'd had. Emma wandered in from the living room, clutching a worksheet from school. Grandpa Joe, can you help me with my family tree project? I smiled, patting the chair beside me. Of course, sweetheart. She climbed up, spreading her paper on the table. The worksheet was a standard family tree template with spaces for mother, father, grandparents, and siblings. Ms. Johnson says I can put anyone I want in my family tree. She says families come in all shapes and sizes. Emma chewed her pencil thoughtfully. So I'm putting you here, she pointed to the grandfather spot, and Aunt Emily here, pointing to the mother position. That's wonderful, I said, feeling my heart swell. And I want to put all my aunts and uncles too, but there's not enough room. She looked up at me. Ms. Johnson says I can make my tree as big as I need. Can we get a bigger paper? Emily laughed, wiping away a sudden tear. I think we have some poster board in the study. Let me check. As Emily left to find art supplies, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Pastor Williams. Joseph, he greeted me warmly. Do you have a moment? Of course, William. What can I do for you? I wanted to let you know that 3 more families have approached me about becoming foster parents. That makes 7 total since your video went viral. His voice carried genuine excitement. The regional foster care coordinator called it the Anderson effect. They've never seen such a surge of qualified applicants. That's wonderful news, I said, watching Emma carefully print my name in the grandfather space of her worksheet. There's more, Pastor Williams continued. The church board met yesterday. We voted unanimously to establish a foster family support ministry. If you're willing, we'd like you to head it up. Share your experience, mentor new foster parents, provide guidance. I sat back, surprised by the emotion that surged through me. For 30 years, I'd done this work quietly, one child at a time. The idea of multiplying that impact, of helping other families succeed in this challenging but rewarding journey, it was overwhelming. I'd be honored, William. Excellent. We'll announce it this Sunday. And Joseph, his voice softened. What happened with Spencer Brooks was terrible. But look at the good that's coming from it. Sometimes God uses our worst moments to create something beautiful. After we hung up, I sat quietly watching Emma work on her family tree. From Spencer's cruel attempt to take my home, a movement was growing, a ripple effect touching lives I would never meet. It was a powerful reminder that our actions, both good and bad, extend far beyond our sight. The following Sunday, Pastor Williams made the announcement about the new foster family support ministry. The congregation erupted in applause when he introduced me as its director. After the service, people lined up to speak with me, many sharing their own stories of fostering or being fostered, others asking how they could help. Mr. Anderson, a young couple approached nervously. I recognized them as newlyweds who joined the church just months ago. We've been talking about fostering, but weren't sure if we could do it. After seeing your video and hearing about your experience, well, we'd like to learn more. I'd be happy to talk with you, I smiled, handing them a brochure for the new ministry. Come to our first informational meeting next Wednesday. As they walked away, Amanda appeared at my side. She'd driven down from Dallas for the announcement. Look at you, she grinned, creating a legacy. I never thought of it that way, I admitted. Well, you should. 47 successful adults, a viral video that's changing perceptions nationwide, and now this ministry. She squeezed my arm. You're not just helping children anymore, Dad. You're changing the entire system. That evening, our home filled with family again. Amanda, Marcus, and Patricia had all made time in their busy schedules to celebrate the ministry launch. Emily had prepared a special dinner, and Emma proudly displayed her completed family tree, now expanded to a full poster board with branches extending in all directions to include her extensive adoptive family. As we gathered around the table, I looked at these extraordinary people who had once been broken children and felt a profound sense of gratitude. Whatever Spencer had intended, his actions had catalyzed something powerful and positive. I'd like to propose a toast, Marcus said, raising his glass. To Dad, who taught us that family is built on love, not blood. And to Spencer Brooks, he added unexpectedly, who in trying to tear us apart only made us stronger. To Dad and to Spencer, they echoed, clinking glasses. Little did we know that at that very moment, Spencer Brooks was sitting alone in his Austin apartment, watching a news segment about the family stand and the movement it had sparked across the country. The seed of redemption was about to take root in the most unexpected soil. 2 months after the confrontation, the story had evolved from viral video to national conversation. Foster care agencies reported unprecedented increases in applications. Churches and community organizations were establishing support programs for foster families. Politicians were discussing increased funding for the system. I had become, much to my surprise and slight discomfort, something of a celebrity. Interview requests piled up on my desk. Patricia had appointed herself my media manager, fielding calls from talk shows and newspapers, carefully selecting which ones would best serve our cause. Dad, we need to be strategic about this, she explained during our weekly video, call her CEO mindset in full operation. This isn't about you becoming famous. It's about using this platform to advocate for foster children and families. I never wanted a platform. I sighed, adjusting my computer screen. I just wanted to help children. And now you can help thousands instead of dozens, she countered. The Today Show interview reached 11 million viewers. Do you know how many of those people might consider fostering now? She was right, of course. If my temporary discomfort could lead to permanent homes for more children, it was a small price to pay. So I did the interview, shared my story, and spoke about the rewards of foster parenting. I talked about the challenges too, the heartache, the bureaucratic hurdles, the emotional toll, because sugarcoating the reality wouldn't help anyone. The most surprising outcome came through social media. Former foster children began sharing their stories using the hashtag #FamilyByChoice. Some were heartbreaking accounts of failed placements and system failures. Others were beautiful testimonials about foster parents who had changed their lives. The conversation was raw, honest, and long overdue. Meanwhile, Spencer Brooks had virtually disappeared from Oakwood. His parents had completed their move to Florida. The last I'd heard, Spencer was working for a small construction company in Austin, keeping a low profile and avoiding social media. Emily had filed for divorce, a process that was proceeding with minimal contact between them. Spencer didn't contest any of her requests, signing papers promptly and agreeing to her terms without argument. It seemed he was accepting the consequences of his actions with unexpected grace. 3 months after the confrontation, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was in Austin. Inside was a handwritten note on plain stationery. Mr. Anderson, I've started writing this letter 100 times and torn it up each time. No words seem adequate for the pain I've caused you and your family. My actions were inexcusable, driven by greed and a profound misunderstanding of what family truly means. I've been in therapy since moving to Austin. My counselor suggested I write to you as part of my healing process, though she didn't expect me to actually send it. But I think you deserve to hear this directly from me. I am deeply, profoundly sorry. Watching the movement that has grown from what happened that day has been eye-opening. Seeing the impact of your life's work spreading across the country has humbled me completely. You've created something beautiful that I was too blind to see. I don't expect or deserve forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that your example has changed me. I've started volunteering at a youth center here in Austin, working with kids from difficult backgrounds. It's a small thing compared to what you've done, but it's a start. Thank you for showing me what real family looks like, even if I learned the lesson too late. With sincere regret, Spencer Brooks. I read the letter 3 times, searching for insincerity or manipulation, but finding none. The handwriting itself told a story, pressed hard into the paper in some places, hesitant in others, as if the emotions behind the words had physically manifested through his pen. I showed the letter to Emily that evening. She read it silently, her expression unreadable. Do you think he means it? She asked finally. I believe he does, I said carefully, but meaning it and changing permanently are different things. She nodded, folding the letter and handing it back to me. He sent one to me, too. Similar content, more personal details. He's not asking to reconcile, just apologizing. And how do you feel about that? Emily sighed, looking out the window where Emma was playing in the yard with a neighborhood friend. I don't know, Dad. Part of me is still so angry, but another part, I remember the man I thought I married. Sometimes I wonder if that person is still in there somewhere. People can change, I said gently. I've seen it happen with many of the children I've worked with, but it requires genuine remorse, deep self-examination, and consistent effort over time. Do you think Spencer is capable of that? I considered the question carefully. I think everyone is capable of redemption if they truly want it. Whether Spencer wants it badly enough to do the hard work, that remains to be seen. 4 months after the confrontation, the foster family support ministry was thriving. We'd helped 5 new foster families get certified and placed 8 children in stable homes. The church had converted an unused classroom into a resource center with books, toys, clothes, and equipment that foster families could borrow as needed. Emma's adoption was finalized in a joyous courthouse ceremony attended by over 30 family members. Judge Marcus Williams had arranged to preside over the case himself, flying in from Washington for the occasion. As he officially declared Emma to be Emily Anderson's legal daughter, he winked at me. And that makes 48, doesn't it, Dad? The courtroom erupted in cheers. Emma threw her arms around Emily, then ran to hug me. Photographers from the local paper captured the moment, adding another chapter to the family stand story that continued to inspire people nationwide. The celebration afterward filled my house and yard with family. Amanda Rodriguez bounced between conversations, her surgeon's hands now serving cake and ice cream. CEO Patricia Johnson had arranged for a professional videographer to document everything for the family archives. Professor Janet Richardson had brought personalized books for Emma from the Harvard University Press. In the midst of the celebration, Emily's phone rang. She stepped it away to answer it, returning a few minutes later with an odd expression. That was Spencer, she said quietly, pulling me aside. He's in town. He wants to see me. Here now? I asked, surprised by the timing. No, tomorrow, for coffee. Emily twisted her hands nervously. He said he has something important to tell me. He specifically said it's not about reconciliation, just something I should know. Do you want to meet him? I think I need to, she said after a moment, for closure if nothing else. Would you like me to come with you? She smiled, squeezing my hand. No, Dad. I need to do this myself, but thank you. The next day, Emily met Spencer at a small coffee shop downtown. She returned 2 hours later looking thoughtful but not upset. He's different. she said, simply settling on the porch swing beside me. Really different. In what way? It's hard to explain. Humbler, more grounded. She stared out at the yard, gathering her thoughts. He's been in intensive therapy, working through childhood issues I didn't even know about. Apparently his father was incredibly demanding, measuring love by achievement and status. That explains some things. I nodded. He's working for a small construction company, living in a studio apartment, volunteering with at-risk youth on weekends. Emily turned to face me. But the most surprising part, he's applying to become a CASA volunteer, a court-appointed special advocate for foster children in the court system. I raised my eyebrows. That's unexpected. He said watching your story spread across the country made him realize how wrong his understanding of family had been, how superficial his values were. Emily shook her head in amazement. He's not asking for anything, Dad. Not reconciliation, not forgiveness. He just wanted me to know that our marriage, despite how it ended, helped him become a better person. Do you believe him? Strangely, I do, she sighed. It doesn't change what happened, but it helps somehow knowing that something good came from it for him too. I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. Throughout my years of fostering, I'd seen how pain, when properly processed, could lead to profound transformation. Spencer's journey was just beginning, but perhaps he was on the right path. He'd like to apologize to you in person someday, Emily added. When you're ready, no pressure. I'd be willing to hear him out, I said after a moment. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. 5 months after the confrontation, the Anderson Foster Family Foundation was established with an initial donation of $1 million from CEO Patricia Johnson. The foundation's mission was to provide support services, educational resources, and emergency assistance to foster families nationwide. Dad, we're taking this to the next level, Patricia explained during the launch event held at the community center in Oakwood. The ministry is wonderful, but it's limited to our local area. The foundation can help implement similar programs across the country. The foundation's board included several of my foster children, each bringing their professional expertise to the table. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez would oversee medical resources. Judge Marcus Williams would address legal challenges. Professor Janet Richardson would develop educational materials. Detective Carlos Santos would create safety training for foster parents dealing with traumatized children. We're building on your legacy, Dad, Patricia said, her eyes bright with purpose. What you did for each of us individually, we're now doing collectively for thousands of children. The launch event attracted considerable media attention. Local and national news crews filled the community center, capturing the moment when I officially cut the ribbon on this new chapter of our family's story. As cameras flashed, I noticed a familiar figure standing at the back of the room. Spencer Brooks, dressed simply in jeans and a button-down shirt, was watching the proceedings with an expression of profound respect. Our eyes met briefly across the crowded room. He nodded once, then quietly slipped out before anyone else noticed him. 6 months after the confrontation, I was working in my garden when a familiar truck pulled into my driveway. Spencer climbed out slowly, his confidence replaced by something that looked like humility. He'd lost weight, gained gray hair, and carried himself like a man who'd learned hard lessons. Mr. Anderson, he called cautiously from the edge of the yard. Could we talk for a moment? I set down my pruning shears and studied the man who'd once tried to take everything from me. The change was evident not just in his appearance, but in his entire demeanor. What's on your mind, Spencer? I owe you an apology, a real one. His voice shook slightly. I was wrong about everything, about family, about you, about what matters. I let greed and pride convince me that I was entitled to something that wasn't mine. He remained at a respectful distance, not presuming to enter my space without invitation. I appreciate that, I said, removing my gardening gloves. Emily mentioned you have been making some changes. Spencer nodded. I've been trying, therapy twice a week, volunteer work with foster kids in Austin. I just completed my CASA training. That's commendable. It's not enough, he said quickly. Nothing could be enough to make up for what I tried to do to you. But I want you to know that I'm truly trying to become a better person. I gestured toward the porch. Would you like some iced tea? The surprise on his face was genuine. Yes, sir. Thank you. We settled on the porch, the same porch where I'd sat with countless children over the years, helping them work through their own mistakes and challenges. Spencer, may I ask you something? Of course, Varum. What did you really see when you looked at me in this house before everything happened? He considered the question carefully, staring into his glass. I saw an old man rattling around in a house too big for him. A house that should logically go to Emily, then to me. An asset to be acquired. He looked up, genuine shame in his eyes. I didn't see a father. I didn't see a legacy. I didn't see a mission still in progress. I was blind to everything that mattered. And now I see the most successful man I've ever met. Spencer gestured toward the house. Not because of money or status, but because you've changed lives. Created a family that defies conventional definition. Built something that will outlast all of us. He set down his glass, hands trembling slightly. Mr. Anderson, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that what happened that day, seeing your family stand together, witnessing the love you'd created, it broke something in me. Something that needed to be broken. I studied him, looking for the manipulative young man who'd tried to take my home. That person was gone, replaced by someone who seemed genuinely transformed by regret and reflection. Is there, Spencer hesitated, could there ever be a chance for me to earn forgiveness from Emily? From you? I looked at this broken man and saw what I'd always seen in damaged children who came to my door, someone capable of redemption. Family isn't who shares your blood, Spencer. It's who chooses to stand by you even when you've made mistakes. Real forgiveness requires real change. Are you ready for that kind of work? He nodded, tears in his eyes. Yes, whatever it takes. Then we'll see what's possible. The road ahead would not be easy for Spencer. Trust once broken requires tremendous effort to rebuild. But I'd spent my life believing in second chances, in the possibility of transformation. I wasn't about to stop now. Over the next few months, Spencer proved his sincerity through consistent actions. He completed his CASA certification and began advocating for foster children in the court system. He found work with a construction company that specialized in renovating group homes and shelters, often donating his weekends to projects that couldn't afford full-price work. When Robert Brooks suffered a heart attack in Florida, Spencer drove 18 hours straight to be at his father's bedside. When his brother's son needed help with college applications, Spencer spent weekends mentoring him. Most importantly, Spencer began rebuilding his relationship with Emily, not as husband and wife, but as co-parents to Emma. The divorce was finalized, but they established a respectful friendship focused on Emma's well-being. Spencer attended her school events, helped with homework, and slowly earned her trust. One Sunday, 8 months after the confrontation, Spencer attended service at First Baptist Church of Oakwood. It was his first time back since that fateful potluck dinner. The congregation noticed his presence immediately, whispers spreading through the pews. Pastor Williams handled the situation with grace, greeting Spencer warmly and making no mention of the past. After the service, Spencer approached the Foster Family Support Ministry table where I was distributing information. Mr. Anderson, he said quietly, I was wondering if there might be a way I could help with the ministry. Behind the scenes, of course. I understand if that's not appropriate. Several church members watched this exchange with undisguised curiosity. Surely, I replied, we could use some help renovating the resource room. It needs shelving, painting, some basic carpentry. The relief on Spencer's face was palpable. I'd be honored to help. Just tell me when. That small interaction marked the beginning of Spencer's reintegration into the community. It wasn't immediate or universal. Many people remained wary, watching his every move for signs that his transformation wasn't genuine. But as weeks turned to months, as his consistent service and humble demeanor continued unchanged, perceptions slowly shifted. 9 months after the confrontation, Spencer received a phone call from Robert Brooks. His father's construction company in Oakwood was struggling without him. Several key clients had returned, but they needed experienced management. They're asking for you, son, Robert said. The church renovation committee specifically requested you to oversee their project. Dad, are you sure after everything that happened? People are seeing how you've changed, Spencer. They're talking about it. Pastor Williams himself called me to ask if you'd consider coming back. It was a critical moment in Spencer's redemption journey, the opportunity to return to Oakwood, to face the community he'd alienated, to rebuild his life in the place where he'd destroyed it. He called me before making his decision. Mr. Anderson, I don't want to come back if my presence would make things difficult for you or Emily or Emma. Spencer, this town has been your home your entire life. You've worked hard to change. Perhaps it's time to bring that change home where it started. 2 weeks later, Spencer moved back to Oakwood, taking a small apartment downtown rather than returning to his parents' former house. He resumed his position at Brooks Construction with a notably different approach to leadership, more collaborative, more compassionate, more service-oriented. His first project was renovating the church's Foster Family Resource Center, a job he did at cost, donating his own labor entirely. The quality of the work spoke volumes: custom shelving for supplies, a comfortable meeting area for support groups, a cheerful play space for children. "This is remarkable, Spencer," Pastor Williams said during the dedication ceremony. "You've created exactly what we needed." "It's the least I could do," Spencer replied, embarrassed by the praise. "I'm just grateful for the opportunity to help." 10 months after the confrontation, Emily approached me with an unexpected request. "Dad, what would you think about inviting Spencer to Sunday dinner? Emma keeps asking when she'll see him again, and I think it might be good for all of us." I considered the question carefully. Spencer had proven his sincerity through consistent action. He'd rebuilt much of what he'd destroyed through patient, humble service. Perhaps it was time to take another step forward. "If you're comfortable with it, I am too," I said. "I'll never forget what he did," Emily said firmly, "but I can't deny that he's changed. And Emma adores him now that he's actually spending time with her, really seeing her." The dinner was awkward at first. Spencer arrived with flowers for Emily and a science kit for Emma, careful not to overstep any boundaries. He addressed me formally as Mr. Anderson and asked permission before entering each room, hyper-aware of respecting the space he'd once tried to claim. But as the evening progressed, the tension gradually eased. Emma's excitement about her science kit broke the ice as Spencer helped her set up a simple experiment at the kitchen table. Emily and I exchanged glances, both noting how different this Spencer was from the man who had sat at this same table a year earlier. After dinner, as Emily and Emma cleared the dishes, Spencer turned to me with serious eyes. "Mr. Anderson, I want you to know how much this means to me. Being welcomed into your home again, it's more than I deserve." "Spencer, do you know what I've learned from 30 years of fostering?" I asked. "What's that?" "That people are not defined by their worst mistakes. They're defined by how they respond to those mistakes, what they learn, how they grow, how they make amends." He nodded slowly. "I'm trying to make amends. I know I can never fully repair what I broke, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying." "That's all any of us can do," I said simply. As Spencer prepared to leave, Emma surprised us all by giving him a tight hug. "Will you come back next Sunday?" she asked hopefully. Spencer looked to Emily and me for guidance. Emily nodded slightly. "If it's okay with your mom and grandpa, I'd love to." And so began a new tradition. Spencer joined us for Sunday dinners, gradually becoming a welcome presence rather than a painful reminder. He maintained appropriate boundaries, never presuming or overstepping, always conscious of the trust he was slowly rebuilding. 1 year after the confrontation, the Anderson Foster Family Foundation held its first annual conference in Dallas. Foster care professionals, advocates, and families from across the country gathered to share resources, strategies, and support. The keynote address was mine, a speech about the true meaning of family, the challenges and rewards of foster parenting, and the movement that had grown from our story. As I approached the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, many of them my own children and grandchildren, I felt the weight of the moment. One man's cruel intentions had triggered a chain of events that was now helping thousands of children find stable, loving homes. Family, I began, is not defined by blood or biology. It's defined by love, by choice, by commitment. It's defined by who shows up when it matters most. From my position on stage, I could see all of my children, the doctors, lawyers, professors, officers, executives, and teachers who had once been frightened, broken children in my home. I could see Emily sitting in the front row with Emma beside her, and in the back of the room, standing quietly against the wall, I could see Spencer Brooks. 1 year ago, I continued, I faced the possibility of losing my home. What happened next has become known as the family stand, a moment when 47 successful adults returned to defend the man who had once defended them. But the true miracle isn't what happened that day on my lawn. The true miracle is what's happened since. I gestured to the room full of foster care advocates. This movement, this commitment to ensuring every child has a safe, loving family. This recognition that family is something we build together, not something determined solely by genetics. As I spoke, I noticed Spencer listening intently, nodding at certain points, his eyes reflecting a deep understanding that had been entirely absent a year ago. Even the person who inadvertently started this movement has been transformed by it. I said, not looking directly at Spencer, but aware of him nonetheless. And that may be the most powerful testament to what we're doing here. When we expand our definition of family, when we choose love over convention, we change not only the lives of children, but the very fabric of our communities. After the speech, as attendees mingled during the reception, Spencer approached me cautiously. "That was powerful, Mr. Anderson," and he said, "Thank you for not mentioning me by name." "That wasn't necessary," I replied. "This isn't about you or me anymore. It's about something much bigger." "I know." He hesitated, then continued, "I've been offered a position with the Texas Foster Care Association. They want me to help coordinate construction projects for foster homes and facilities across the state. Given my history, I wanted to ask if you thought it would be appropriate for me to accept." I considered the question thoughtfully. Spencer had spent a year proving his commitment to making amends, to serving the foster care community, to becoming a better man. "I think you have unique insights that could be valuable to the organization," I said finally. "You understand both sides of the equation, how easy it is to dismiss the importance of stable homes for children and how vital those homes truly are." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you. Your opinion means everything to me." "Spencer," I said gently, "at some point you need to postpone yourself. You've done the work. You've made amends. You've changed your life. That doesn't erase the past, but it does create a future worth embracing." Tears filled his eyes. "I'm trying. Some days are harder than others." "I know." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's how healing works." As the foundation conference concluded, my family gathered for a private dinner at a nearby restaurant. All 48 of my children were present, a logistical feat Patricia had somehow managed despite their busy professional lives. Spouses, children, and even a few great-grandchildren filled the private dining room with joyful noise. Emily approached me as I watched the happy chaos, a glass of iced tea in my hand. "Dad, I invited Spencer to join us for dessert. I hope that's okay." "Of course," I nodded. "He's earned his place at this table." When Spencer arrived, he was greeted with varying degrees of warmth. Amanda and Marcus remained coolly polite. Patricia was professionally cordial. Others who had been less directly involved in the confrontation were more welcoming. Emma, oblivious to the undercurrents, was openly delighted. "Spencer, come sit by me. I want to tell you about my science fair project." As Spencer settled cautiously into the indicated chair, accepting a slice of cake from the server, I watched my family's reactions. The tension was palpable but not hostile. This was part of the healing process too, allowing Spencer to make amends not just to me and Emily, but to everyone his actions had affected. After dinner, as the family began to disperse to their hotels, Spencer approached me one last time. "Mr. Anderson, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I know not everyone is comfortable with my presence, and I respect that." "Healing takes time, Spencer. For everyone." He nodded thoughtfully. "You know, when I first met you, I couldn't understand why Emily was so devoted to you. I couldn't see past the fact that you weren't her biological father." He gestured around the room at the departing family members. "Now I understand. You didn't just raise children. You created a legacy of love that will continue for generations." "That's what family does," I said simply. "It builds something that outlasts us all." As we prepared to leave, Emma surprised everyone by asking a question that cut to the heart of everything we'd experienced. "Grandpa Joe," she said loud enough for the remaining family members to hear, "is Spencer part of our family now?" The room went quiet. Every adult froze, waiting for my response to this innocent but complicated question. I knelt down to Emma's level, aware of Spencer standing uncomfortably nearby, of Emily, watching with cautious eyes, of Amanda and Marcus and Patricia, observing with protective concern. "Emma family is a special kind of relationship," I began carefully. "It's built on love, trust, and showing up for each other. Some people are family from the moment they enter our lives, like you were for me. Others become family over time as they demonstrate their commitment to those values." I glanced up at Spencer, who was listening with an expression of humble acceptance. Spencer has been working very hard to show us that he understands what family truly means. He's learning and growing, just like we all do. So while he might not be family in the same way as everyone else here, he's someone who's important to us and who cares about us. Emma considered this with the serious contemplation unique to children. So he's kind of like family in training. A ripple of laughter broke the tension. Even Spencer smiled, though his eyes were suspiciously bright. That's actually a pretty good way to put it, I agreed, standing up again. Family in training. As we left the restaurant, Emily fell into step beside me. You handled that beautifully, Dad. It was an honest question, deserving an honest answer. Do you think he'll ever truly be family again? She asked quietly. After everything, I watched Spencer ahead of us, holding the door open for Amanda and Marcus, despite their cool acknowledgement. I think he's already closer than any of us expected him to be a year ago. The rest, we'll have to wait and see. 15 months after the confrontation, the Anderson Foster Family Foundation received a major grant to establish a nationwide network of resource centers for foster families. Based on the model we created in Oakwood, these centers would provide practical support, educational resources, and community connections for foster parents and children. Spencer's work with the Texas Foster Care Association had proven instrumental in developing the construction and renovation standards for these centers. His expertise in cost-effective, child-friendly design had earned him growing respect in the foster care community, gradually overshadowing his infamous past. One evening, as I reviewed blueprints for the Dallas Resource Center in my living room, Spencer arrived for his now regular Wednesday visit with Emma. Mr. Anderson, he greeted me respectfully, still using the formal address, despite my repeated invitations to call me Joseph. Those the plans for Dallas? Yes, I nodded, spreading the blueprints wider on the coffee table. What do you think of this layout for the counseling rooms? Spencer studied the plans with a professional eye. The natural light is good, but you might want to consider sound insulation between these walls. Privacy is crucial for those difficult conversations. Excellent point. I made a note on the margin. Your input has been invaluable to this project, Spencer. He shook his head modestly. It's the least I can do. You know, I said carefully, at some point you've paid your debt. The good you're doing now isn't just making amends anymore. It's creating something new. Spencer considered this emotion flickering across his face. I don't know if I'll ever feel like the debt is paid, but I've discovered something unexpected in the process. What's that purpose, he said simply. Real purpose, not status or possessions or what others think of me, but actually making a difference in children's lives. He smiled slightly. It's what you've known all along, isn't it? Before I could answer, Emma bounded into the room, school backpack in hand. Spencer, you're here. Can we work on my science project now? Absolutely, he agreed, giving me a grateful look before turning his full attention to her. Show me what you've got. As they settled at the kitchen table, Emily joined me on the couch. They're good together, she observed quietly. He's patient with her, really listens. He's become the man you thought you were marrying, I noted. Yes. Emily's expression was complicated, wistful, appreciative, but resolute. Too late for us, but not too late for him to have a good life. The Foundation's first resource center opened in Dallas 18 months after the confrontation. The ribbon-cutting ceremony attracted considerable media attention, with reporters eager for updates on the family stand story that had captivated the nation. Spencer attended the ceremony but stayed in the background, his contribution acknowledged in the program but not highlighted in the speeches. He understood that his role in this story was complex, both villain and redemption seeker, and he respected the boundaries that entailed. After the formal program, as attendees toured the new facility, a reporter approached me with Spencer, visible just behind her shoulder. Mr. Anderson, this movement all started because Spencer Brooks tried to take your home. How do you feel about him being involved in the Foundation's work now? I could see Spencer tense, preparing for whatever I might say. This movement started because 47 children found love and stability in my home over 30 years. I corrected gently. What happened on my lawn that day simply made visible something that had been true all along, that family is built on love and commitment, not just biology. I glanced at Spencer, including him in my response. As for Spencer's involvement, I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption. I've spent my life helping children overcome difficult beginnings to build meaningful lives. Those principles don't stop applying when people reach adulthood. The reporter looked between us, sensing a more complex story. So you've forgiven him. Forgiveness isn't a single moment, I said thoughtfully. It's a process that involves both parties. Spencer has worked incredibly hard to make amends, not just to me, but to the entire community. And I've chosen to focus on the good that can come from even our most painful experiences. Later, Spencer approached me privately. Thank you for what you said to that reporter. You could have told a very different story. I told the true story, I replied. Not just what happened, but what's happening now. The story isn't finished, Spencer. We're still writing it every day. He nodded in understanding the deeper meaning. I'm grateful to be part of it, however small my role. Your role isn't small, I corrected him. You've helped design every resource center in our national rollout. You've raised significant funds through your construction industry connections. You've mentored 3 CASA volunteers. That's a substantial contribution. Spencer looked embarrassed by the praise. It doesn't erase what I did. No, I agreed. Nothing erases the past, but it does create a future worth embracing. 2 years after the confrontation, I celebrated my 73rd birthday surrounded by family. My house and yard overflowed with children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez had taken a rare day off from surgery to attend. Judge Marcus Williams had rescheduled court proceedings. CEO Patricia Johnson had postponed board meetings. Emma Now 10 had organized a surprise party with Emily's help, decorating the house with streamers and balloons. My foster children had flown in from across the country, some bringing their own children to meet Grandpa Joe for the first time. The highlight of the celebration was the unveiling of a special gift, a custom-built library for my home designed to house the thousands of books I'd collected over decades of teaching and parenting. Dad, Emily announced, we know how much your books mean to you and how you've never had proper space for them. So we all pitched in for a special present. She led me to what had formerly been the smallest bedroom, now transformed into a magnificent library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a comfortable reading chair, and perfect lighting. Spencer designed it, Emily added quietly, and oversaw the construction while you were at that conference last month. I turned to find Spencer standing unobtrusively at the back of the group, his expression hopeful but uncertain. This is extraordinary, I managed to overcome with emotion as I ran my fingers along the beautiful woodwork. Thank you all. And Spencer, this craftsmanship is remarkable. He nodded acknowledgement, clearly moved by my appreciation, but still careful not to claim too much space in the family moment. Later, as the party continued in the backyard, Spencer found me alone in the new library, arranging books on the shelves. Mr. Anderson, he said hesitantly, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. What's that, Spencer? The Anderson Foster Family Foundation is expanding to Austin next month. They've offered me the position of facility director. His voice betrayed his amazement at the opportunity. Managing the resource center, coordinating with local agencies, overseeing support services. That's wonderful news, I said sincerely. You've more than earned it. Before I accept, he continued, I wanted your blessing. This is your legacy, your family's work. I would never want to intrude where I'm not welcome. I set down the book I was holding and turned to face him fully. Spencer, look around you. Look at what you've built here, this beautiful space that will be part of my home for whatever years I have left. This is what you're capable of creating when you channel your energy towards service rather than acquisition. I stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. You have my blessing. Not just for this position, but for whatever good work you undertake from here forward. Tears filled his eyes. Thank you. That means more than I can express. Now, I said, lightening the moment, I believe there's cake in the kitchen. Shall we join the others? As we walked outside to rejoin the party, I watched Spencer being cautiously welcomed by various family members. Amanda offered a genuine smile. Marcus engaged him in conversation about the Austin legal system. Patricia discussed foundation business with professional respect. Gradually, step by step, day by day, Spencer was finding his place not as the man who had tried to take my home, but as someone who had learned from that mistake and dedicated himself to making amends in meaningful ways. Emma spotted us and ran over, grabbing Spencer's hand. Come see the science experiment I set up. It's about water filtration for developing countries, for my school project. As Spencer allowed himself to be pulled away, his face alight with genuine interest in Emma's work, I felt a profound sense of completion. The circle that had begun with confrontation was closing with reconciliation. Not perfect, not complete, still evolving, but healing nonetheless. Emily joined me, linking her arm through mine. "Happy birthday, Dad. Are you enjoying your party?" "Very much," I smiled. "Looking around at all of you, what you've become, what you're creating, how you're changing the world, it's the best gift I could ask for." "Even the Spencer part," she asked softly. "Especially the Spencer part." I nodded, because it proves what I've believed all along, that people can change. That love is stronger than blood. That family is something we choose every day through our actions and commitments. We stood together watching my extraordinary family, biological, adoptive, and in training, celebrate life and connection under the Texas sky. Spencer Brooks had walked into my house and told me his parents were moving in tomorrow. Instead, he'd received an education in what family truly means. It wasn't the lesson he'd expected, but as he engaged earnestly with Emma's science project, surrounded by people who were cautiously accepting his reformed presence, it was clearly the lesson he had needed most. As for me, I had 48 reasons to believe that love creates family far stronger than blood ever could. And now perhaps we had a 49th person learning that same truth, building bookshelves and resource centers along the way.